Hey folks, it's Angel. Welcome back to the channel. Today, well, one of two videos this week because there's been a couple of releases, but this is the Lionheart Designs Socata Aerospace Trinidad TB-21 GT Turbo, which makes it sound super sexy. And this is a pretty cool plane. Nice, fast, retractable, single-engine, complex aircraft. The Socata TB family of aircraft, originally developed by the French company, of course, Socata. They were developed over the last 20 years, generally known as the Caribbean planes, the whole family, and all of them have had similar names in the generations. Now, we look through the various variations, and this, of course, is the 21, which is the GT. So it's an improved version of the Trinidad TC, digital controlled turbocharger. So it's a pretty powerful aircraft. Originally, it's obviously a retractable version of 250 horsepower engine in there. So nice little plane. Really good for sightseeing and GA flying, but Lionheart, this has been their first release, kind of jumped out of as a surprise, if you will, from that company. Always done great stuff in the past. They've had some great aircraft with FSX and P3D. Now, this one, it is a simple little GA. Let me turn all the engine instruments off so we're actually cold and dark here. Real simple. Nice, but simple. I don't want to sound bad about it. I like it. We're also with the brand new updated Orcas Island here, which has been tweaked. You can't really tell immediately, but there's a bunch of changes. But I've always liked this aircraft, that and the other version of it, the Trinidad. So, really fun little plane. Or is it Tobago? I get confused. Immediately, first impressions inside the cockpit are, it's not bad. I'd say it's on a par with the default aircraft in terms of texture quality. I'm getting a small FPS hit here for some reason, but that could be a number of factors. Aircraft is very nice. Of course, we've got our gear systems, we've got all the instrumentation, including AC, in case you feel warm. In terms of complexity, it's about as complicated as the average GA plane. Of course, you can turn off your yoke and other factors there. Not a lot is clickable in the cockpit, other than we can pull up the armrest, which is always useful. Now, I've seen pictures of the doors open in the flight manual. I'm not sure where the click spot is for that. There were definitely pictures with the doors open of the model, and I can't work out where to click that. But I'm sure somebody else very talented will find that out at some point, because I don't know where it is. See, there's a handle there, and there's also a handle down here, which I believe is the door, but it doesn't want to click. So, I'm sure we'll find that out at a later date. But here we're looking at how the aircraft actually operates. So, parking brake is set. There. Does that allow me to open the doors? No, it does not. Either way, let's get this thing started up and take a look at it. Cruise is pretty quick. Really decent performance for the aircraft. You'll get, I mean, obviously, this thing is minimum flap speed of 129 knots. So, you're cruising in the 140s, 150s when this thing's up to speed. Let's get her on. Now, the first thing you'll notice is, even though my avionics are turned off, the GPS has come on with battery. Could just be a simple heckerino. We've got fuel on, we've got prop and those forwards, that is back, and idle. Crack it with the parking brake on. Got our correct lights on, and those are all located for you down here. Set standby transponder, instruments on. Engine start, engine's caught. So we'll alternator and avionics on, although the avionics are apparently already on. Fuel instrument readouts are up there for us. So we've got our oil pressure, temperature, fuel quantity and voltage. Oh, hello, camera. So we've got our backup instrumentation there. In case, and I like this about it is that you've got the main instruments here, you've got the co-pilot's instruments over there. But they're canted over, so if you were to lose your primary six-pack, you can see those ones. It's great. And of course, you've got all your instruments where you want to see them. And from this, you have to lean your head a little bit to see the actual manifold pressure, which isn't a huge problem. Now, it's one of the reasons I don't like the default Cirrus is because of the massive amount of cabin that gets in the way of your vision. And the same thing happens in this aircraft, but this is just a factor of how this plane looks. Nothing that Lionheart could do there. Okay, we are ready for taxi, so we're going to knock that parking brake off, which is annoying to do it manually because I think you can actually do it through the yoke, which is actually kind of useful. Okay, so we'll pretend these idiots aren't parked here right in my way, and we're going to taxi ourselves down to the end of the runway. Ground handling is perfect. The plane really responds. Comes with 8 total liveries. You've got liveries from Israeli Air Force, who use them as a trainer. There are American, Canadian, British, and a few others in there too. German, I think, is included. And there's a couple of different versions of the interior colours, including a tan and this graphite black, which I really like. Now, whilst these are technically ported in the context that the model already existed beforehand, Bill from Lionheart actually ran all these through Blender and actually properly exported them as native. So they're not necessarily ported, it's just the model is the same one as previous, if that makes sense. Textures are all 4K, which certainly adds to the impression of the aircraft. Now, we're going to put our takeoff setting of flaps on. Approach is clear. Taxi out onto the runway here at Orcas Island. And we will get ready for our departure. We'll go from roll. Takeoff handling is nice and placid. Just a little bit of a nudge on the rudder keeps it straight just here to left of the center line. So I'm up to rotation and takeoff speed will lift away cleanly. Nice and easy. Gear comes up with positive rate. And retract those flaps. Give it a bit of nose up trim here as we're departing to keep ourselves on angle. Now climb's on full power. So nice and easy there. You can climb to full power. Stays just inside the green arc. And you'll notice this thing climbs like a rocket ship. It really does go up really nicely. We're climbing about 110 knots right now, 120. And it is going up, 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 up. Great performance from this aircraft. It's definitely a good cruiser. Now, the tan interior probably makes the whole thing look a lot bigger. This black interior does feel like a little bit of a coal shelter. But... And also, whilst I have got my custom tail number on the dash, you'll notice on the actual livery, we're showing an American registration. So those are painted on. My only slight criticism is a glitch there. It appears to be on the trim tab, which is a shadowing glitch, but that's just what it is. Exterior textures are not that complex, but they do the job. You know, they look just fine. Of course, the Socata company owned by Aerospatal, I believe at this point. So the aircraft will handle very nicely. There's definitely a performance impact, I will say that. Now, this is likely something that will get patched out because a lot of developers have found there have been performance impacts with their aircraft, and they've found ways to fix that later. I will note it's definitely got a heavy impact for some reason, even though it's all steam gauges. I like this aircraft though, I really do. It's crisp, it handles well, it's positive, and look at that. This is how high up and far away we've gotten already in a moment or two. We're going to come back into the downwind here for Orcas Island and bring it round in the pattern. So I'm going to reduce power here. Now, it's not rated for flight and icing conditions, but it has got emergency procedures for icing flight, or an intentional flight into icing conditions. Does that open the door, I wonder? No. No, it doesn't. I'm sure I'll work that out at some point. I read through the manual, or at least I skimmed through the manual to look at the actual air speeds and things. I may have skimmed over the bit where it says how to do that. If it's even possible, maybe I imagined it. I tend to imagine a lot of things. It's one of my hobbies. So our airfield is directly ahead of us right now. We are passing through 2,000 feet, so we're actually pretty high up here. I'll kill the throttle a little bit, and we'll just slippity-doo-dah down. Try and dump some altitude here, because the airfield's right there, and we're very high up. So we're having to do a bit of a rapid assisted descent. Kind of slipping it down to drop altitude without gaining too much airspeed. Which is working, just about. As we're coming down to 1,000 feet before we'll cross threshold on downwind. Rudder is all the way off to the right deflection. Okay, that will do us nicely, 1,000 feet. So we're going to pull the nose up here, and that should help us to drop a little bit more altitude and airspeed. And as soon as we get down, we're going to deploy our gear as we are under gear speed, and give ourselves the first stage of flap. Got our gear lights there, looking good. Airfield off to our left. A little bit tight on the downwind here, so I'll just nudge it out a spat. The aircraft handles well at low speed, especially in dirty configuration like this. It's very placid, very gentle. It's not one of those twins that will try and bite you. There's positive pitch control the whole way through. I really should be doing my patterns on the other side of this island, but for some reason I've grown accustomed to the left traffic. Okay, so we're going to begin to look at our base turning now. Give it a little bit more power because we are ditching some of that pretty early on. And this is going to be a very tight base to final, but it does show the aircraft will take it. Give it a bit more power. Oh my god, this is tighter than I thought it was. That's what she said. Giggity. Insert phrase here. Way too tight a base to final. But the aircraft's handling it no problem whatsoever. I'm giving it a bit of throttle here just to keep it powered through. And it will nudge back around. It does feel like you're flying a Formula 1 car or some sort of jet with how tight this windshield is. But that's a factor of the Trinidad. So if you're used to planes like this or the Cirrus in the sim, if you're running VR, this will be easy, or track IR, because you'll be able to move your head around a lot more. But it is a little bit of a spicy plane. We'll give it that final notch of landing flaps here, which might have been a little bit... No, we don't want that. No landing flaps. We're coming a bit too steep for that. Let's give it a little bit of power to goose it across the threshold here. And down we go. Onto the centre line. We've floated half the runway. We're floating more than half the runway. Come on, put it down. There we go. There we go. Just please stop. That would be nice. I don't want to go off the end of the runway in the review video. And we are down. Let's pull those flaps up to add some more weight onto the wheels. And we'll just escape off onto the taxiway. So that was sloppy. I tend to be a little bit sloppy when I'm rushing these review videos with the actual takeoff and landings. But the aircraft responded very well. I will say that. I felt it floating, so I pulled a notch of flaps back in. And it seemed to sink pretty rapidly there, which it would. And when I managed to give it more power, it responded very well. It was very positive. It's got these big candy bar wings, very much like the Piper, but they're a little bit thinner in their chord. So a bit more of a high-speed profile there. Cruise speed is very good, very quick. The aircraft is incredibly nimble and very, very accurate in how it behaves. It's got good slip and crab behavior from what I've seen so far. And it looks decent. The only issue I can really tell you is the performance. That's the one thing I'm not too happy about is if the doors don't work, that was weird advertising, but not the end of the world. And there are no real ground candy options that I can tell. Okay, we've just gone past that taxiway entrance. But it isn't a bad aircraft. I really, really enjoy this. If you're into your GA planes, especially the complex ones, there aren't a huge stable of them right now other than things like the Mooney Ovation. So this is really one of our first couple of single-engine complex aircraft. I really enjoy it. I think it's a fun plane to fly. It's definitely responsive and agile. So it's a bit like those two cars in front of us, the Camaro and the Corvette. It's a bit of a sports car, and I think it's nice. This is definitely a great add-on. Price is €25. I got it from Sim Market. You can probably get it on other places in the near future, but they had it on Sim Market. Enjoyable to fly. Very enjoyable to fly. And it always does that when I hate it when it pulls in that menu when I cut off the magnetos. There we go. Shut everything down. Would I buy this again? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a huge, fan of the very tight front cockpit view, but look at just how steep profile that is. It's a trait of the actual aircraft itself, with that very sleek profile. Very like the Rockwell Commander, actually, in that regard. Great plane. Fast, high performance. It's definitely a sporty plane for its purpose, and I think very enjoyable in the sim. So, thank you for watching, folks. I've been Angel. I'll see you next time. Actually, that'll be later this week. Bye!